Hey everyone, Trailblazing families and Trailblazing families to be. How is everyone doing? I'm really excited to have a Worldschooling mom friend of mine that I've met in real life, Martha Nieset, and she is zooming in from Merida, Mexico. And just to warn you, there's a little construction outside her house, so we might hear a little noise. And then I'm still trying to get over my cough, so I'm going to try not to cough on you all. And hopefully our internet will work, but that is the beauty of being a digital nomad, world schooling mom. So hey, Martha, how's it going?
It's going great. Hi, Liz. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, so Martha and I, we met, well, I know we saw each other in Spain about a year and a half ago, or a year ago in La Herradura. There's a great little world schooling community there, and also in Mexico. Did I see you in San Miguel and Playa del Carmen?
I think I've met up with you in San Miguel de Allende, Playa del Carmen, once at Anahata briefly.
Right.
So lots of different places. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't meet you in Canada when the Family Adventure Summit was there. No?
No.
Okay.
I didn't.
So we met at least in 4 different places, and I've met your son. You have a teen son, a little bit older than my teen girls. And we have a ton of friends in common. So so tell us a little bit about your world schooling story. Don't you guys have a home base in the US?
Yeah. So my son and I, we've been, world schooling probably since he was like 8. So 2nd grade, we took off and have done it like a whole bunch of different ways that we've traveled, but we are from Ohio, originally Columbus, Ohio, and now we kind of are home basing out of Cleveland, Ohio. So we've been nomadic for the last probably 3.5 years. And prior to that, we would kind of go away for a few months and then come back to our home base, go out again. Maybe a half a year.
Okay, and he is 15 now or 16?
Yeah, 15 and a half, almost 16.
Okay, so quite a while you've been doing this. And what was he going to a regular school beforehand?
He's, on and off. Yeah. Okay. So we, our world schooling adventure began before I even knew about a term called world schooling. I just wanted to travel and learn Spanish, and I wanted my son to learn Spanish. And I wanted to kind of just have this immersive cultural experience. And so I kind of figured out how to do that from the blogs and such of other families who were doing it. And we went to Nicaragua for like 6 months. And I put him in a school there for 2nd grade. And prior to that, he had done, preschool in a brick and mortar. He had done kindergarten in a brick and mortar and had done like some online homeschool. So we've done like a lot of different things. In Nicaragua, he did like 2 different international bilingual schools in Spanish and English.
Okay, because I was wondering if it was bilingual or all in Spanish.
Yeah.
It was bilingual. Did that help him kind of ease into the transition? Because I know sometimes when you put your kids in the local school with a new language and you kind of throw them in on the deep end of the swimming pool, sink or swim. But the other thing is, in an international bilingual school, they may not have to learn the new language because so many people speak English. What was your experience or his experience?
Our experience was that I felt like in international school, because it was a mix of local people and expats, was more of like a softer landing than just throwing him into a full Spanish immersion school. Because some of the courses were in Spanish, some were in English, some kids, there was all different levels within each language of ability. And so he definitely picked up a lot of Spanish because certain classes were all in Spanish. And so he had to. And as a young, 8-year-old, he would figure things out. And so he got a good handle he got a good accent. He got a good intro to language. He knows a lot of the basics. He's not fluent just because it was only 6 months. And when you're that young and you leave the language and you're not immersed in it, then you don't have it as well, as good a handle on it. So, and we've gone in and out so much that he knows a lot of words. we can converse and buy things here and there when we're in Mexico or Nicaragua, but you know, he'll just be ongoing, and he's got to start on it. So yeah, it's probably been more for me. It's been more of an immersion and growth in my language since we've been traveling.
Yeah, I mean, my kids and I definitely, we try to improve our Spanish. And this is why a lot of times we choose Spanish speaking countries. I did go to a language school before I had kids in Spain. So that kind of gave me a good foundation. And then I felt like Gabby, she's the one who was, you know, really interested in improving her Spanish. She could understand a lot, but she was too shy to speak. So when we were in Argentina this past year, I finally hired a tutor, an online tutor, kind of funny. We did meet her in real life, but she finally learned kind of like the grammar and the structure a little bit more, and it really improved her Spanish. But I think both is good, like formal learning and also, you know, being immersed in the environment.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, like while he was in the bilingual school, like I got a tutor, and I'd go 2 to 3 days a week and just 1 to 2 hours with the tutor. And that was probably my biggest leap in learning Spanish. And then since then, I've probably done less formal language instruction, like outside of like maybe a little bit of Duolingo, but yeah, but it really kind of going back and forth between the formal and the informal, like really helps you build and grow in your language.
That's the best way. So again, you wanted to have this language immersion and this you know, experience. You didn't really know about world schooling, but I'm guessing you've met other people, you figured it out. So how was that first year or two of traveling like when you were kind of learning about this new lifestyle?
So at the beginning, like I just took off. We went to Nicaragua, I put them in school, and then we got there and it was like, oh, it's just he and I. And I was like, wow, like this is amazing. We're having these amazing experiences, but like very quickly I was like, he needed kids to play with that he could really connect with. He was just like a very verbal kid, and I was missing kind of having like other adults who kind of got the, you know, what we were doing. And so we were like really trying those first 6 months to build connections with families that were living there, that were in the school. But it was difficult. Sometimes it was lonely because we were just like, you know, we had just gotten there and trying to figure it out.
But it wasn't happening in the school, like you weren't making social connections there?
We did for sure. But in like the small town we were in, you know, a lot of people already had those connections, and they were families that were living there full time. So they knew a lot of people already. Sometimes it's hard to break into those circles, just like at home, I think.
Yeah.
Versus later when we traveled with families who maybe stayed in a location like a month or a couple months at a time, like there was more meetups and more intermingling with other families.
So tell us some of the places that you traveled to that you enjoyed, and then we can talk about how you figured out, you know, how to find community.
Yeah, so our first 2 times that we like kind of traveled out, we went to Nicaragua for like 6 months each time. And then after that, I had begun to learn about Worldschoolers and found their Facebook page. And I think there was like a Project Worldschool Summit and Family Adventure Summit. And so I was kind of watching these things like come up online and think, oh, that would be an amazing experience to go there and meet other families like us who were wanting to travel and immerse their kids and you know, experience all these places. So that was kind of like, we actually had, after our trips to Nicaragua, we came back to Ohio, and my son wanted to be in a traditional school. And so we did that for 2 years. The first year, not traveling at all, really. And then the second year, I was like, I can't handle this. Like, we got to get back out there. So even while he was enrolled in a school, I actually I maxed out his sick days so we could go to Mexico to go to the Family Adventure Summit, and we could meet these other families, and at least we got to know some new families and build some connections. And so then we came back, he went back into the school, and then I was like, well, there's no more sick days. So I got inventive a little bit. I was like, okay, well, we had homeschooled by then, so I knew the process of submitting the paperwork in Ohio to homeschool. And so I was like, well, there's this other community we wanted to go to, but it was going to be more like a month 6 weeks, and I thought, okay, so how do we do this since he's enrolled in school and I want him to go back to the school after the experience? So I actually de-enrolled him from school, like he was becoming a homeschooler, submitted that paperwork, and then we left, spent our six weeks in Mexico at this Worldschooling community. And then we came back and I just re-enrolled him back in the same school. And then he finished the last 3 to 4 months in that school. So you kind of like, sometimes I just have to get creative. Like you got to work within the confines of like wherever you're at the time, right? So that was what we did. And
so in the comments, we have a couple friends that we met when we were in San Miguel, Astrid and Amy Lee Curry. So they're saying hi.
Hey guys.
But yeah, so I spent time in Mexico at Anahata, run by our friend Patty. I know they're on hiatus right now. What was that experience like? Because we can talk a little bit more about these summits, but I want to know how it was living there and participating in that World School Hub.
Yeah, so I met Patty when we took our 2 weeks and went to Mexico. I met their family and they were just getting ready to start that community. And I thought, this is what I've been looking for. I've been looking for a place where we can just go, be in one place, experience local culture, get some Spanish immersion, connect with other families who are kind of doing the same thing with kids he can, you know, play with and connect with. And so I was like, we're going. I don't care if we're in school this year. Like, we're just gonna leave. We'll come back. So
and he was game to do all this, right? You didn't like drag him, or did you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like he had said he wanted to be in a traditional school, and I put him in the traditional school, and he had already done a year and a half. And like, I think kind of after a year and a half, he was kind of like, hey, I'm not gonna argue with like a month away from the rigor of school. Like, and so I think he was pretty fine with it. Like we went and he met so many kids and just had a great time. It's a different life than being in school, you know, all day long from 8 in the morning to
And so at this World School Hub, there was no like formal education offered. I think there was something for little kids. I forget.
So it was there were like different outings planned that you could sign up and do. So it could have been going to a cenote. It might have been going to there were lots of interactions with the Mayan families near where we live. So we might go learn how to make we like made bowls one day out of this traditional nut by cutting it and boiling it and like scraping it, and the kids did all that kind of stuff. We would go make like a traditional food, which was like a tortilla with different things inside it, and the kids got to do that. And then they would like, we got to be there while they like buried it and cooked them underground, and then got to eat them afterwards. Like candle making and like learning how they seeing how they weave the hammocks, and they let us, you know, got us started with a couple of hammocks. I never finished mine. Like that stuff is hard.
Really hands-on things versus like academic.
Yeah, right. And then most of the kids there, some might have had traditional homework or schoolwork that they needed to do, but then they would have like the afternoon probably to hang out. And some kids were just unschooled like we were at that time. So the kids would just come up with their own things. Like a lot of times, my son would be making videos with other kids. Like they'd come up with a movie script that they wanted to act out and get the other kids to be part of it and, you know, create the storyline. And one time they made this whole trailer about this movie they were going to make. And I don't know that they ever finished the movie, but they made this beautiful trailer about what the movie was going to be.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, but it was just like a place where like their minds and could just kind of run, and they had all these, you know, their tech tools that they travel with, and or they could just be like, if they're a kid that just loved to be outdoors, they might be out on the trampoline or climbing a tree or, you know, hanging out in hammock, whatever, learn about whatever's going on at the time.
And so then after that experience, you went back to the traditional school in Ohio, yes?
Yeah, he went back and finished out the school year.
And how was the transition? I mean, going in and out, were there any issues, or did he just slide in and out?
He slid in and out pretty good. Like, I mean, So this is one of my favorite stories because we've done such a mix of traditional school and unschool, homeschool. So like at second grade, because I had taken him out for a year and sent him to a bilingual school, like he just like when he went into a traditional school, they were like, hey, we think he's a little behind. He's not reading at the level of his peers. We want him to do the special program. And I was like, okay, fine, tell me about it. And we did that program and they started measuring like how his reading skills were. And so they had measured him and they tested him like the weeks leading up to when I took him out of school for 6 weeks. Well, we left, went to Mexico. He had no instruction, no testing in those 6 weeks. He just brought these books with him, these Dungeons and Dragons, like, you know, role-playing game books that he was reading with big words and, you know, something he was really passionate about, engaged in. And he was talking about them. He was teaching kids how to play during this time. He ran a couple games with other kids that were in the community. And when we got back, like, they started testing him again at the traditional school. And when I went to have the meeting with them at the end of the school year, they looked at me and go, Martha's mom must have like be doing something right because his scores like shot up. Wow. And I just remember going, yes, you know, because we probably all feel it if we unschool. Like if you've been through traditional school and then you're like putting your kid down this other path that allows their creativity and their desire to drive the learning, it's really scary sometimes as a parent to be like, am I doing this right? Am I messing anything up? So you kind of like, it's nice to get that feedback sometimes like, hey, I took my kid out of school for 6 weeks and took him to Mexico and he got to learn how he wanted. And he like did fantastic. Like he just had this
and included,
and I had the numbers to show
it. Because he was reading books that he was really interested in. Somebody's saying it's a little difficult to hear you, Martha, but they can hear me okay, but I can hear you fine. But I'm wondering your little, maybe just keep it a little closer. Oh, that's better. Okay, yeah, sorry, just keep it a little closer to your mouth, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so Astrid said this is where our kids are right now. They want to experience traditional school. Sorry, this is from what you were talking about before, but I could see them wanting to travel again. That would be awesome. We should all travel together. And then she says, woohoo for game schooling. That's totally true.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, yeah, again, I'm a big proponent of unschooling now because when kids find things that they're really interested in, they're really eager to learn it and their learning just soars, you know, versus being forced to learn something that's boring to them. So, which a lot of the school, you know, does. I mean, there's certain things that are interesting to certain kids, but anyway, so what other ways, other than going to the summits and this World Schooling Hub, how else have you found community? And then I want to talk about if you ever created community. So how,
it's funny, in preparation for this, I was like, let me think about all the different ways we've built community or had community while we traveled. And I probably came up with like a list of 20 things, Liz.
Wow.
Besides the ones that I mentioned, like we spent 4 months in Asia, and like when we did that, like we kind of went to several countries, but I built it around the different community opportunities that we had. And then even if we were going someplace that we really wanted to experience and we didn't have community, like I figured out how to build it. So like we started off by going to this cultural immersion experience. It was called Fiji. It was on Voro Voro Island. There's a woman that I had connected with at one of the summits who was offering this program for families to spend 2 weeks on this island with a local tribe in Fiji. And you just kind of learn about how they live and you live that way with them. And it was an amazing experience.
Are they still running it, or was this just, are they still doing it?
I think it stopped during COVID and I'm not sure where it's at right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did that for 2 weeks and that's how we began our trip to Asia. And then from there, my son always wanted to go to Australia and I did too. So we figured out we could like make a leap to Sydney before going up to Asia. And in Sydney, I was like, we had a week there and I was like, I don't know a soul in Australia. So I got on this Facebook couch surfing group. I kind of just joined all the Facebook groups. And what I did was like a couple months in advance, I just put a picture of us. I said, this is who we are. We're going to be in Sydney, these dates. Are there any other, World School families that would want to host us or meet up or, just get together? And I must have got 3 or 4 responses because we ended up we landed with one family who reached out to us and they were close to the airport. We stayed with them a couple days and they taught us how to use the metro and got us a card and, introduced they had kids Sam's age. And so it was great. And then we just went and met another family, like a couple hours outside the city and went hiking with them. It was like all of a sudden, I have all these best friends in Sydney, wow, Australia I knew nobody before that. And it's just because I kind of just got vulnerable a little bit and said, hey, we're coming. Is there anybody who would want to meet? We would love to meet you. And I just put that out there. So, people want to connect. They want, and even when I know this from when we're back home in Ohio, I love to meet other world schoolers. And when they come through, if somebody comes through my area, I'll be like, hey, we're here. Come see us,
Yeah.
And so we did that in Sydney, and then I think we were going to Indonesia next, and there was a friend of a friend from my work back in Ohio who she's like, my friend runs this program on this island outside of Singapore. It's in Indonesia. You could connect with her, and so I just wrote her an email and told her how I knew her friend and said, hey, I'd really like to learn about what you're doing. And she just welcomed us right there. We spent a couple of days at this place where she was part of, and she showed us around. And then after that, I think we went to another family adventure summit and an event that was a month-long meetup of families called the Stone Soup Pop-Up. That was in Bali.
Yeah.
So there were just
I wish it was. I wish they could bring
we were
it back.
going. We just, yeah, that's a good one. It was amazing. But there's so many, this community that we're part of in this world schooling community. People are just very innovative and they want to create these things. They see this need for what's there, and then they build it. And it might be a couple of years, and maybe that need goes away or something shifts for them. And so now there's all these other world school hubs popping up.
Yeah, new ones. Okay, so that's how you hopped around Asia and you met a bunch of people. And what other ways did you travel in Latin America or Europe? And did you find community in those places?
Yeah, so after we kind of had been to several different communities, you really just start, you become Facebook friends with different world school families, and you kind of see what they're talking about and where they're planning to go, or you might find that you connect really well with them. Maybe at Anahata, we took a couple trips or went to cenotes or something with another family, and our kids got along and we got along. And so these relationships just develop, and then you kind of get hey, we're thinking about going to Spain. Does anybody want to, meet us there for the month of October? So this Pat, I met you in Spain last year, our friends Astrid and Clint, who you interviewed last week. We met them in Spain for the month last year as well. This year, I was my son wanted to go back to that same community. And I just said to a couple friends that he wanted to have more friends join him on that trip. And so I said, hey, Amy, do you and your son want to come meet us there or join us and share an apartment? And so we actually spent a whole month together and just shared an apartment, shared expenses. Our kids got to hang out and explore together. So that's just another way that even though we went to a community, I can still create even more community by sharing space with another solo mom,
Yeah.
And so that's something I've tried to do a lot, just because otherwise it's just my son and I. And it's really nice to be able to just have a bit more sense of family, as well as the community and other families and people to connect with.
Yeah, I think this co-living thing is a really great idea. I've done that before as well. Yeah, Amy says solo moms unite. Hey, okay, cool. So, any tips for the World School newbies? I mean, you've been explaining your story, but any other tips for finding and creating community? I mean, basically just spend a lot of time on Facebook posting and try to reach out and make connections and network, right?
Yeah, I mean, just showing up to things and being in touch with people, like, it's huge. um, yeah, I think just reaching out to folks, making invitations. Like, some people just want to be invited to be part of something. Um, I mean, actually, after we were in Nicaragua the first time, I kind of figured out, hey, this traveling as a solo mom thing can be tough sometimes. And the next time I went to Nicaragua, I specifically reached out and they'd post to find other moms that would want to travel with us or stay with us while we were in Nicaragua. And so, you know, that manifested, that happened. Another mom and her son came down, and then a second mom and her son like came and lived in another area, and we would meet up frequently, and our kids really connected. So I think just, you know, making invitations, putting yourself out there, and following up with other people who put things out there and want to connect. And I know there's some World Schoolers who created different apps or websites where you can connect with other World School families based on your location. I can't say I've been on a couple of those. I haven't used it very well, but I think fortunately, just because we've met so many people at different summits and events where other World Schoolers show up, or World School communities, that we've just kind of done that kind of thing on our own for the most part. But
I've tried to join those apps too, and the problem is I post where my current location is, but I don't update it very well, like when we're moving around. So it still says I'm in this location from 2 years ago. Yeah, I wanted to share a story. When I was in Peru, I would say 5 years ago, I was somehow living in this huge house. It was the owner, a local Peruvian man, was trying to turn it into a hotel, and somehow I found it, and I was able to stay there with my kids before it was, you know, available to everyone. But he wanted me to try to bring guests, and he did. I think he did have it on booking.com. Like, little by little, while we were there, he was starting to have guests. So I posted it in the big World Schoolers group with a picture of the house, and I'm staying on this property. It's, you know, giant gated, and it's, you know, my kids are going to a local school within walking distance. And I had, over the I think 4 or 5 months, about 10 different families come through and stay at that property. And for 1 month, it was 2 other single mom families with girls around the same age as my twins. And, you know, it was great because we took turns like keeping an eye on them. And of course, it was like a big property, but they built like this giant fort. And all of us went and did the cheaper backpacker route to Machu Picchu, you know, which it entails taking a big minibus down a windy road for hours and hours, getting to a town, spending the night, and then the next day taking a taxi to a spot where we would walk along the railroad tracks. So it was really good to do it with 2 other solo parent families, you know, and the kids had a great time. So again, yeah, I posted in a big Facebook group, and then said, who wants to come meet us? And it was fantastic. It was a really great experience. So similar to you, you know, just posting it, inviting people, reaching out. Now, couch surfing, I've tried it only once. We did a road trip from Seattle to Playa del Carmen in my car. So we did stay with one family in Boise, Idaho on the way. But sometimes, again, if you're a larger family, it's a little bit of a challenge because people might not have all those extra bedrooms. But for a small family, it seems to work. And then also, instead of staying with people, couch surfing has a website where they have lots of events and you can just meet people. So have you used couch surfing, or do you try to focus more on the World Schoolers?
Yeah, I have not used the official couch surfing site, though I know solo mom World Schoolers who have. I think just the one Facebook group that I mentioned, I've used that and posted a few times. And then I think just others, more specifically Worldschooling sites, just because I know those are kind of like people who understand what we're doing. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Kara has a question. How do you handle, hopefully rare, occasions when you're not very fond of someone you're meeting up with? I mean, I guess that's like if you're living with them. Because if you just meet with them one time, it's no big deal, right? But how do you handle when you don't click with people or you're not having the best roommate situation?
I thought about this last night too, because it's a real thing, right? Like we don't get along with everybody that we meet, and we all have our different styles and preferences. And so it's happened. It's happened to me. I've invited people to come do a country with me and then found out, oh, like they don't do things how we do them. And we're not really clicking. And sometimes it gets really uncomfortable. And so, I mean, I think just like anywhere else you would handle it, I think, you know, being open, being as honest as you can, communicating, like set what boundaries you need for yourself and your family. And sometimes, you know, just like anywhere else, you just are learning from the experience and try to do better as you learn more, right? And so we're all just doing the best we can. I think, you know, like I try to lead with kindness as much as I can, and also remembering to just take care of my needs and my kids' needs, and to just do the best that we can for everybody. And so sometimes it just means, hey, this isn't going to work for us, but how can we support each other in each finding our own space or, you know, transitioning this.
That's awesome. So let's talk about, you know, now that your son is a teen, you can you don't have to stay with him 24/7, and you're, you know, really good about finding him friends. What about you? Are you able to socialize a bit outside of just with the families? And like, because, you know, again, I'm in a situation, the same situation where my kids are teens. I don't have to not babysit, but I don't have to be with them 24/7. They can kind of take care of themselves for a bit. So I'm able to kind of go out to parents' night out or mom's night out or do karaoke or whatever.
Right.
Do you do that more?
Yeah. Like when I first started traveling with my son, he was like second grade, and you know, so like the amount of time I just didn't feel comfortable going out. So like at night or things like that, and leaving him home unless I had specifically found a sitter. And that happened a couple times. Like we developed friendships where I could, you know, leave him with a friend, and go do something. But yeah, that's changed over time. Like as he's gotten older, like we would gradually, like I'd be like, hey, you stay in and I'm going to walk down to the store like 2 blocks and then I'll be right back. And so we would have these little trials where he would, you know, get to practice and being home on his own and get comfortable with that. And that just kind of grew over time. And, you know, now he's in high school age, so he's fine, but I have a bit more freedom. And that's really nice because I get to experience worldschooling in a different way. Like he gets the choice of whether he wants to go and do something quite often. And if he doesn't, then I'll be like, well, I want to go. So you do your thing and I'll go do mine and we'll meet back up for dinner or, you know, whatever. So, yeah, so that's changed a lot and it's created more space for me to be able to socialize, to date, to, you know, do all those things. So, yeah, like I shared an apartment with another solo mom and her son, or we did in Spain. And like I was dating somebody new and he came to visit for a week and we wanted to have a few days like where we could just, you know, date and be together, you know, without kids. And so she's like, hey, you know, your son can stay. You guys can go do your thing and come back. And she needed to do the same thing. And you know, a month or two later. And so we just kind of like look after each other and trade off kind of like a family that way. So yeah, just kind of building those connections to have that, to create space and to support each other, like has been amazing. So yeah, like, as they get older and you have a bit of community, like it really changes the way that you can world school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to go to digital nomad events just because I like to learn from other nomads. And even when my girls were young, I would have a nanny or a babysitter take care so I can go to the events. And now that they're older, they can just stay home if they don't want to come. So actually, sometimes I brought Gabby when we were living in Buenos Aires to a couple digital nomad events. And I also joined a local foodies club, a Facebook group. So I would go because my daughter's not into food like I am. So I would just leave her at home, order her some food or make her something simple. And then I would go eat the yummy food and talk to other,
right?
Yeah. Or do wine tasting and whatnot.
Their interests
Awesome.
differ so much from ours,
I just
right?
wanted to invite anyone watching to ask some questions before we go. I think, Martha, you've given so much great information and tips on finding community and creating community and traveling with other people. You had mentioned before in the past that you have done trips with solo parents, solo moms or solo parents. Can you talk a little bit about that? And will you do any more in the future?
So a few years ago, after our time in Nicaragua, we developed a lot of relationships there, and I had started a Nicaragua immersion trips, basically, for families to come and experience the culture of Nicaragua. And then after that, kind of just geared more towards solo moms, as I kind of realized that was more of a niche that just like I understood and felt like a real closeness with. And so I created solo mom and kid travels, basically. And we've had trips in Nicaragua and in Costa Rica before COVID began. Since then, we've been on a hiatus for quite a while, but like just having a space where like moms that were kind of newbies to traveling with their kids, like I was at one time, and creating a trip that kind of has that cultural immersion, it has some education, like the space to like be in community together and do the trip together with other moms and kids that your kids can connect with, other moms that get you. That was like, and it's been an amazing experience. And yeah, I'm hoping to put out some more trips in the year ahead. So we'll see. Like, yeah, it's a great way to travel if you can, like, with other families, other moms and kids.
Well, let us know the next time you do it, and maybe post in this group in the chat if you have a website or a Facebook group or whatever, so people can keep tabs on that. And because I would love that. I mean, I'm happy to travel with anyone, but sometimes it's nice to be with other solo moms. Well, great. So what other final tips do you have for Worldschool newbies, Worldschool solo moms about finding community? I mean, you've given lots of tips, but basically just put yourself out there, right? And go in the Facebook groups and try to find people to travel with. Yes.
Yeah, I think, if you're brand new to it, I say start small, and just reach out to people here or there and see where it goes. I think just, like the whole thing around following your kids' interests and supporting them in that. I mean, if there were any advice, that's probably what's been the most useful for me. We talked about different types of schools, and I can't help but like think like what schools my kid has been most supported by. And for us, that's like learning Dungeons and Dragons, like something he's been so interested in. It's been like a school for him, and that his passion and interest for this game has driven him to teach other kids. It's driven his reading, his math skills, his storytelling, his leadership. He started by, in one community, teaching some of the younger kids. Eventually, he would do it again the next year when we came to the community, and then he had adults coming to his games, and he was teaching the adults. And then, like, we went to Spain, and he offered a group, and now he has families that pay him to like lead games online. He's doing it online with kids from Sweden and Spain and like all over the place every week. So it's just been like this, that's part of his schooling. And that was something that I just like trusted. Like, he really loves this, he's really engaged, and then I just could see the growth in him the more that I supported him in doing those things. And I might help, like I helped him along the way by like, hey, there's this family that's looking for somebody to teach their kids how to play so that they can join a group. And so I asked him if he would be interested in that. And so I helped set that up and kind of facilitate that. Or if we were in a community and he wanted to host a game, I might help him put together like a flyer or something and help set up a schedule or something like that. So just like supporting your kid in whatever it is that they want to learn, I think is probably one of the best.
That is amazing. And you're in Merida, Mexico right now. So is that a good place to find community? I think there's also lots of solo moms that live there, correct?
Yeah, actually. So this time, the way I created community is I came back to the same house that's actually run by a solo mom. And she has like 5 apartments in this house. And so we rented one of the apartments. I told another solo mom friend from the Pacific Northwest who wanted to get away for a month as well. And so we all just came for the same month and are living like in apartments in the same complex. And then there's like another family we've traveled with that's house sitting nearby. So there's just sort of like putting it out there, sharing it with people that you enjoy connecting with, and then letting them know ahead of time where you're going to be. And, you know, I always love to meet up with people and see them again. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just kind of come together where we're at here.
I also want to take the opportunity to remind everyone that the Project World School Family Summit is happening in Veracruz, Mexico in March. I forget the exact dates, but it's their 10th one and it's going to be their last one. They just sent an email out. It's their last one. And both Martha and I have been to this. This is, you know, Lainey Liberty, one of the veterans of Worldschooling. She and Moreau are going to be doing the last one. So that is a great place if you can make it down there in March. Just find it on I'll put the link down below, but Project World School Family Summit, you can go to the We Are World Schoolers Facebook group. That's their group, and find out the dates. I just forget exactly when. Yeah, Clint says, oh no. Yeah, I think again, I don't know why, but they didn't have a ton of signups this year. They've had maybe 400 people come in the past, and I think now they only have about 100 or 200 people signed up. So yeah, I don't know why, because World Schooling.
You never know with World Schoolers. They might all show up at the last minute.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Maybe come March.
Well, anyway, so it's their last one. So if you guys can go, I highly recommend it. And like we said, there's new ones popping up all the time. But the nice thing about that one is, again, they've been doing them for 10 years. It's like they do a good job with it. And I think Sarah, the Italian American mom, she's doing a pop-up, a 1-week pop-up before that summit and a 1 week after. So there's like almost a 3-week opportunity to be in community in Veracruz, Mexico. So yeah, check it out. Yeah. And yeah, so Kara saying there's the idea of our community as a whole is shifting. What do you mean by that, Kara? Shifting? I mean, I think it's growing. But I love how a lot of World School parents are starting businesses. They're hosting hubs and pop-ups. We're going to one, well, we're at one right now in Bansko, Bulgaria for the 2nd year in a row. And we're going to a pop-up that Sarah, the Italian mom, is running in Florence for a week. And there's a bunch of people that we know that will be there. So anyway, so it's great that it's, you know, these are evolving, these businesses are evolving. I'm coaching World School newbies now. You run trips for solo moms. You know, again, we were friends with people who have hubs and all that. So Kara says shifting away from the summits and doing other means of gathering and learning. Yeah. Yeah, I still think the summits are good though, because you got like a concentrated, you know, 4 or 5 days of a bunch of World School families and a bunch of people, you know, a volunteer to give a talk or a round table or whatnot. So anyway, but Martha, this has been so great to chat with you, and please check the comments afterwards. And if there's any links or anything you want to add, I would love that. That would be great.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Liz. This has been so fun.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge. Hey, Hey, thanks for watching. This is Lizz Quain with Trailblazing Families. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for over 6 years, and I'm happy to share about our experiences. Make sure to check out the other videos on this channel. I do have a playlist of all the other interviews of other world schooling families and service providers. We're all happy to share our information and wisdom about how to best live this world schooling, digital nomad, and family travel lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling and need a bit of help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to travel extensively as a family and how to world school, how to educate your kids. There's many different ways to do it. So reach out to me and schedule a no obligation Zoom meeting so we can have a quick chat and see if my program is a good fit for you. Thanks and happy trails.